This is a special Denny Schaffer Show extra. We're trying to build our brand, and so this is our first ever episode of Driving with Denny. It's not like anything you've ever seen before. It's not like comedians in cars getting coffee, carpool karaoke, Alec Baldwin's Love Ride, funny Uber rides, hiking with Kevin, or Cash Cab. It's nothing like that. And now, on to episode 1.
All right, it's Driving with Denny. First victim, the mayor of the great city of Toledo, Wade Kapszukiewicz. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the mayor. How are you, sir?
When you applaud when I get in the car, it almost suggests that you didn't think I'd be able to do it.
I wasn't thinking that at all.
I know you weren't. That's right. No, we're going to go up past Cherry Street into the old North End, sort of a very challenged part of Toledo, but I'm going to start a little bit of a history tour here. So 2 stops, maybe even 3, are up here. Now, how much time do you have? My guess is that
we got all the time you need.
All right.
My nap's at noon.
Okay, good. I have a meeting I'm trying to avoid at noon, but but one of your favorite families, the Block family, is to thank for Minoru Yamasaki designing our government building. There was, as the story goes, let's just go straight here. As the story goes, a big party or social occasion in New York City when they were snipping the ribbon for the original World Trade Center. And Paul Block went up to Yamasaki and said, well, you know, we're building a government building in Toledo. Why don't you come build our government building? So there's the story. So this thing is working?
We're on, baby.
We're on.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's turn on Huron right here. And what I want to show you is this sad-looking building right here. This yellow building that has seen better days. Why on earth would I drive you by this building? It doesn't seem like something who wants to promote the city of Toledo would want to show.
Is it a crack house?
I don't know what its modern use is. I will say this. It is the oldest continually standing structure in Toledo.
No way!
It was built in 1854, during the halcyon days of the Franklin Pierce administration. And it has been here ever since. Now there are parts of the Oliver House that, nothing dates back as far as this. It was owned by a guy named Frederick Eaton, who was a Boston businessman. Interesting how much of Toledo's history began in Boston. The glass pioneers, people like Frederick Eaton, they for whatever reason, they moved from Boston to Toledo, and he opened what at the time he called the Eaton Dry Goods Store. You're thinking, boy, this makes for wonderful Facebook viewing, I'm sure. But in about the 1870s or so, he greeted his customers into his dry goods store with 2 enormous lions, one on each side of the door. And so locals began referring to it as the Lion Store. So if you are a Toledoan of a certain age, you would remember Frederick Eaton as the founder of the Lion Store. This is where he lived. It is the oldest continually standing structure in Toledo.
Do you think it's haunted?
Why not? Sure.
Okay, it's haunted.
But what can we do? It's okay.
I can back up.
All right.
You're the mayor. I can do what I want.
I suppose. No one's coming. So 2 little tiny villages, one called Vistula, one called Port Lawrence, merged to try to attract the builders of the Ohio Erie Canal, and it worked. So Vistula and Port Lawrence merged and became something called Toledo in 1837. Anyhow, this neighborhood we're in, the Vistula neighborhood, was that first city. Here we are on Champlain Street. Why are we here? And you can still see some of the original brickwork. Now, some of this brickwork is new, but some of it is, the original archway is back there. 90 years ago, there was a company here called Electric Autolite. They were a supplier. They were a Chrysler supplier, and they made, not surprisingly, electric lights for autos.
We like stories. Stories about piñatas.
That there was a huge, I hate to use the word iconic, but there was an enormous strike and an uprising here during the worst part of the Great Recession. But it helped, Great Depression. But it really helped form the history of Toledo. So let's put ourselves in spring of 1934, 85 years ago. Great Depression is in full swing, and the Great Depression hit Toledo harder than most cities. 70%, the unemployment was 70%. The city's largest employer, and as a frame of reference, today it is 5%. So
thanks to you. I like how you worked that in.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
When are you up for re-election?
2002, what year is it? 2021. 2021.
So you got time.
Okay.
I got time to get that
Okay.
either down
And
to
then?
4 or 3% or back up towards 70%. We'll see. At any rate. But 85 years ago, unemployment was 70%. The city's largest employer, Willys Overland, had filed for bankruptcy. Every bank in the city had collapsed except for one, Toledo Trust. And if I really had some time, we could drive by the original Toledo Trust bank building, which still stands. It's the only bank that survived the Depression. These were tough times. Here, there were workers frustrated that they were getting paid, I think, 20 cents an hour. And so they went on strike. And the strike that took place here, the electric Autolite strike, which involved 10,000 National Guardsmen.
So this was very interesting. We thought he'd wrap up this story about this time. We're looking at each other thinking it's almost over. Very interesting, as you can imagine. But at the same time, Mr. Toledo seems to be going on a tangent. And on, and on,
strikes of the
and
American labor
on.
movement. There were probably 3 big strikes, the Flint sit-down strike and maybe another. But this is up there in the holy trinity of events that started the modern labor movement. Now, to many people, that wouldn't be a good thing because we are divided as a country on so many things, and the role of organized labor is probably one of them. I bring us by here not to make a statement about the efficacy of organized labor, but really to talk about Toledo and Toledoans and our ability to fight back against impossible odds, to be the little guy rising up against, the big foe. I mean, Toledo has been, we've taken our lumps over the years, but we're resilient and gritty and tough, and we always get back. So the point of all this was that the strikers won, actually. There had been other uprisings that were quashed and, people moved on, but this was one of the very first ones where the little guy won, where the people won. They got their, was it 5% raise and 35 cent per hour wage. But by the end of 1934, 200 similar factories in Toledo had been organized and were up and moving. So the significance isn't whether you think labor is good or bad, whether you like the UAW or not.
This was a great story, Enrique. We had to move on, so what better way than with music?
Actually, it's really karaoke. We want you to start singing. Okay. Rock down to Electric Avenue. Are you familiar with this song?
I am not only familiar with the song, I'm familiar with the words that we sang to this tune when I was in 7th or 8th grade. Or no, it was probably earlier than that. I was probably in 5th or 6th grade of Regina Trailey.
Name the artist for a prize.
Don't know, but I know this. We would sing, we're gonna walk down to Kmart and buy some shoes. They're only $15. See, that was high class entertainment when you were 11 years old.
It's Eddie Grant.
Eddie Grant. Okay.
There you go. He would be proud that you guys parodied his song about Kmart.
I wonder if he was related to Mudcat Grant, pitcher for the Indians in the 60s. Probably not.
Maybe.
All right,
Where would you like to go?
Let's go. Let's turn around and go back out to Cherry Street and go over the bridge. I want to show you a couple things over there.
Paul wanted to know if we were going to see any hookers.
It depends. It depends how. It depends.
Okay. It's a Monday.
It is a Monday.
We're sleeping in.
They're tired from the weekend.
Maybe they're. So here we are in what right here, as you know, used to be the sports arena. And after the sports arena went away, this was owned by the Chinese, and then they didn't do anything, etc. So now finally we got some good things happening here. This is going to be a restaurant, and it's also going to be a sort of health center for the people who live in these units. Okay, video time.
Wow.
You getting some pictures or video, Paul?
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah.
Wow, that is awesome. I didn't know all this was going on.
I
down
know.
here.
Well, it's.
And these are all housing units?
Yeah. This is all. It's being done by Continental Realty out of Columbus. They redeveloped. If you've been to downtown, have you ever been to Pittsburgh recently in the downtown?
It's been years.
All right. They've done a lot of stuff in Columbus and Short North and elsewhere. So.
Did you get it, Suzie?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
All right, you get the condos?
I didn't get that way. That's Paul's
All
side.
right, I'm gonna.
I don't know if you.
I can't go
I don't
down
know,
there. I'm
turning
gonna
here
turn
would be
around.
wise, but no. I think
All right,
you can go up there and turn right.
All right.
So, but anyhow, these should all be done in the spring. There should be people living in them.
Very
You get a picture,
nice.
Paul?
I'd
Yeah, I
like
got
to
it.
live in. We have the mayor in the car.
Sorry. I think you can turn right here unless they're going to be mean to us, and then in which case we'll have to turn around.
All right, can we also...
Yeah, you can turn.
What do you want me to do,
turn
Paul?
around?
I think this is This is Morrison Row. I don't know about that. Yeah, let's go for it. Screw it.
We're going for it, Paul.
We got insurance on the tires, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're good.
we're good.
All right,
I hope we
while
can
you're
get out
driving, can we go ahead and kick up the air a little bit?
Yeah,
Why?
we can
You know,
have
it
some
might
air.
just be better to turn around. This might take us nowhere productive.
All right,
We'll just
let
go
me
back
turn
out.
around, Paul.
Actually, stopped by. So do you know where you're going?
No.
Because I would argue you're going the wrong way.
All right, where am I going?
You gotta go back to the main drag you ran.
Yeah, I
I
would just
do?
turn right. You can turn left here. Let's just turn left here. So we can go out here and then the first connecting road to the left.
You know your neighborhood.
You do.
Yeah.
Wow.
This will take you all the way out to where we want to be.
Turn left here, right?
Yep.
Is that what you said?
Now, if there was a T on the end of this road, it would be Bogart, and that would remind me that Humphrey Bogart was not only married in Northwest Ohio, but took his honeymoon in Northwest Ohio. The great Humphrey Bogart, when he married Lauren Bacall,
No kidding.
he had a friend who lived in Richland County, a farm there. It actually was the same farm many years later that was used for some of the scenes in Shawshank Redemption. Let's take a right. And the scene where Red gets out and he's looking for Andy Dufresne sends him to look for that tree. It's supposed to be Maine. In reality, is the exact same farm that Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall were married in. And then when it was time to go to their honeymoon, they went to Cedar Point. So,
Is that right?
there you have it.
That is awesome.
Got a lot of Northwest Ohio pride here.
The mayor was very
the
fast
50th
with his
anniversary of the
stories.
moon
When we
landing,
thought it was
right?
over, he had a new
The
point.
moon
I think he
landing,
just
50
said
years
Neil
ago this
Armstrong.
summer.
He tells
an
longer
event
stories than my
that
grandma.
was directed by a Toledoan. The flight director was a guy named Gene Krantz. Born and raised in Toledo, delivered the blade as a kid, went to Central Catholic High School, then went and was the flight director. He's the guy we're going to name the airport after. The person who then walked on the moon first was a Northwest Ohioan, not a Toledoan, but Wapakoneta, where Neil Armstrong is from, is closer to Toledo than any other big city. And Neil Armstrong got from the ground to the top of his Saturn V rocket on the strength of a Houghton elevator made in Toledo, Ohio on Spencer Street. They had the contract with NASA. And then when he got to the moon, 4 days later, he was protected from outer space by a suit made with Owens Corning fibers. So Toledo takes a backseat to no one when it comes to putting a man on the moon. Anyhow, speaking of man on the moon, this is the steel plant that's being built here. So what the heck does that have to do with man on the moon? It's going to be 400 feet tall, which is taller than those Saturn V rockets that launched the astronauts to the moon. That's interesting and exciting. We can talk more about it, but what's really interesting is for a tower that's going to be 400 feet high, the crane that is building it right now, I think you can go up here and there's a parking lot across the way if you want to take a video of this crane. This red crane is, without exaggeration, the tallest crane on the face of the earth.
No way!
It's 540 feet tall. I'm told there's a 510-foot crane somewhere in Shanghai. But for now, while it's here, this red crane, 540 feet high.
You got to get a picture of that, Paul.
Whoa.
Yeah. Well, we can actually park and get a better picture of
Can
it.
we?
This is a great
Wow,
view
that
from
is
here.
amazing.
It is. There's
Who knew this was even going on over
who knew?
here?
It's almost like someone should be promoting this and
Yes.
trying to get people to drive around and
Yeah,
take pictures
I
of
wish
it.
we knew somebody.
Yeah. So
Are we on?
Denny's going to the bathroom right now,
Yeah.
allegedly. So we have noticed that he, perhaps used to running a dictatorship in the studio,
Sure, yeah.
is demanding that the temperature in here be high. And I am too warm. You were too warm. In fact, everyone is too warm. We are all too warm. So what we have decided to do was turn the air conditioning on higher and turn it lower. And now as he comes, he's about ready to re-enter the car. He's going to notice how cold this is, but we're going to teach him that in a democracy, majority rules. And it's going to remain this temperature. How's it going?
Oh, much better.
Nice and relaxed?
Oh, yeah. All that coffee I drink in the morning, you know, to make that engine go from 5:30 to 9 catches up to a guy.
All right. Put yourselves 100, now it's 100 years ago. It is the summer of 1919. On July 4th of that year, the heavyweight championship of the world was fought in, of all places, Toledo, Ohio. Now, you have to remember that 100 years ago, by the way, this is a statue of some Civil War guy, and to be honest, I don't know much about him. I think his name is Stedman. Is that right? Let me see. Let's get close as we turn. Is it Stedman?
Stedman? Like Oprah Stedman?
No, I'm wrong. Forget it. I don't. Maybe I was thinking of Oprah, but that guy's, I know, some Civil War guy.
We'll edit that part out, don't worry.
Yeah, we'll edit that part out. Who knows what it was. So, 100 years ago, the NFL had not been founded yet. The NBA was 25 years away from being founded. Hockey was only played by silly people from Canada. Even baseball wasn't quite the national sport it was now. Babe Ruth was still pitching for the Red Sox. The biggest sports in the country were golf and boxing. And what kind of a city was Toledo 100 years ago? It was the kind of city that in 13 months, from July of 1919 to August of 1920, hosted the World Championship of both events in the same city in back-to-back years. You might say, well, why would Toledo host the host essentially the Super Bowl? Well, first of all, Toledo was the 25th largest city in the country, and it would not have been altogether unusual, for an event like that, but it was still probably a little bit, no pun intended, punching above our weight class. We had a couple things going for us, not the least of which was the fact that we were a town, I don't know how to put this. How do I put this? Remember what was happening in the world in 1919. Prohibition was just starting to rumble down the highway, and certainly the forces that created Prohibition were at work. Women were just getting the right to vote, and the suffragette movement was at its peak. One of the reasons that Toledo got this fight was because, well, I'll back up one more time. There were folks in this town who said, oh no, we don't want this. I have a thing at my office where there was the women's temperance movement or some sort of a Christian temperance organization. It's like, no, you got to do everything you can. Letters to the mayor. Got to do everything you can to stop this fight. This will bring to Toledo the worst assortment of prostitutes, gamblers, and drunkards. Okay. So, we got the fight, and it was a big deal. They built on this site, right where we're looking, a 100,000 seat wooden stadium.
No way!
Just bear with me for a second. It was made of wood. It was built over the course of about a month. It seated 100,000 people. It is the size, what's the sense of scope? The size of Michigan Stadium. Or if you prefer a stadium where football is played, Ohio Stadium.
What shape is that stadium? It kind of looks like a toilet seat. You ever notice that?
So, this past July 4th, we celebrated the 100th anniversary of this by reenacting the fight. Across the street at Detweiler, I don't know if you saw any of this, yes. The local carpenters union donated their labor and built a wooden stadium to scale, not the exact size, but it was, they looked at the original architectural renderings, built a little wooden stadium. We had actors portraying Dempsey and Willard. We had people in period costumes and, with the women with their skirts and men with their bowler hats and whatnot. It was fun. It was a fun, and for those who care about this sort of thing, not a single taxpayer dollar was harmed during the making of this event. We went out and raised $50,000 of private money. It was all and it turned into also a fundraiser for the Police Athletic League. So it's just a fun way to celebrate our history, and at the same time, raise money for kids, who need positive things to do during the summer. That were built with the wood. There are homes that still stand that were built with the wood from this stadium.
Yes.
So they knocked down this wood and they're like, hey, let's.
And I'm assuming it was filled up with Toledoans watching the fight.
Well,
All
Toledoans,
100,000.
but also
Big time
All
celebrities
over
of the day.
all over the country. They came.
Charlie Chaplin was here.
We
Al
have a
Capone was
picture.
here.
I got a picture of the.
Yeah, inside they got a bigger picture.
Well, let's look. If you don't mind,
Do we have a minute? Sure.
Paul, keep an eye on the vehicle.
Okay.
Running and all the doors
So, but it all.
You fell off.
This here is what I got here. This is a
Oh, is that it?
$60 ticket. Which
Oh, that was the. That was the
From,
program.
One of the
Yeah.
Do you have one of the pictures in here? A picture for the day? If not, I thought those were. It's okay if you don't.
That's so cool.
No, we
Sorry.
can
Oh yeah.
That was in the play.
Yeah, it was just kind of fun. And in fact, you can see what's turn out for. Yeah, you can see there's the. Anyhow, it is what
Pretty
it is.
neat.
So, all right, Tom.
Hey, good meeting you guys.
See ya.
All right,
All
I'll
right.
come by for some free golf. All right, Mr. Mayor, where are we going now?
I think we should go by my old neighborhood, where I grew up. Over the Regina Chaley neighborhood. That's where I went to grade school and still go to church. This is sort of Miracle Mile, West Toledo. My folks actually still live in the same house that I grew up in, so maybe we'll drive by and see what they're arguing about today.
So it's now time for rapid fire trivia.
Good.
We're going to give you rapid fire questions, and you're going to give us the first answer comes to mind. Okay.
Yes.
First one. Do you think the mayor should have a bulletproof car like the Pope Mobile?
Not the mayor of Toledo.
So, Mr. Mayor, what's on your to-do list at home?
What does my wife have me do?
Yeah.
The honey-do list.
Yeah, what's on number one on the honey-do list?
All right, I'll say this much. I recently learned, and I can't even say this without laughing, but in Canada, they refer to their mayors as your worship. Okay, they honestly do, and they're a holdover of the British Empire. The judges are your grace and right honorable this. So I found out that they referred to their the road's closed. Let's just loop around. So I found out that they referred to their mayors up there as your worship, and I informed my wife of that. Stay to the left. And to answer your question, I will simply say this: she never refers to me with the appropriate honorific, unless it is preceded like this. That grass isn't going to mow itself, your worship. It's your turn to do the dishes, your worship. So I wouldn't say I have it's a routine honey-do list, but whenever I am asked to do something and whenever I delay, she is always quick to refer to me as your worship at that point. So, and from the naval base I was born, they bought that house right there, which is where I grew up and where they still live. It's 758. This little tan, I don't know, I guess it's tan now. It's a little tan. Oh, it's got a Wade sign in front.
Oh,
Ha! You got to get a picture of that.
Put the window down there.
yes, for
The,
sure. Oh, wow.
So there it is, and you can see, earlier I joked about my dad not finishing home projects. It looks like he's trying to paint the posts of the, which are half painted or not painted or God knows.
Looks like he's scraping them, getting ready.
It's
Who-
okay. He's
who
got
knows?
time.
He's prepping.
He's
Prepping
prepping.
to
He's
paint.
been prepping for 35 years, I'm sure.
So what's is this 1-3 over here? Or
1-2. 4-2-6 1-2.
Okay, just so you know, these speed bumps stink.
Okay.
What can we do about that? They're like every 8 feet.
Well, it's a busy kid neighborhood.
Just to show you how different. Here's the thing. And of course, you'd have to expect my answer to involve Plato. Remember, in the Republic, Plato says democracy isn't the best way to do this. It is not the best way to govern ourselves. A benevolent dictator is, the benevolent king. But the problem is, we'll never find a benevolent king. There is no benevolent king. They all start like a benevolent king.
It might
then
be
they end
time
up
to
like
move
Stalin
on.
and Hitler.
Now we try trivia. All right, so, your worship, what's your go-to beverage after a long, hard day at one government center?
Diet Coke.
That's it?
Or, no, if I really want to splurge, my favorite would be a Diet Dr. Pepper. It's because, just like those commercials say, it tastes the same as regular Dr. Pepper.
You're totally lying. It's alcohol.
Hey, Denny.
Yeah, Paul.
I'm kind of getting hungry, man. We've been out and about a little bit. Can we get some chow or
All
something?
right, it's time for Paul's feeding.
We're almost done, dude. Just hang on.
I'm also someone who requires regular feedings. When you said you started with someone big and then you're going to work down from there, I assume you're talking girth.
No,
Popularity.
Stature. Well, Paul and I are on the same side of the car, so I'm surprised we're not tilted.
It's a Flintstones thing going on.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
On there?
Woodlawn Cemetery. This is easily Toledo's most historic cemetery. You have buried in this cemetery James Ashley. Who's James Ashley? He was our congressman during the Civil War, but not just any congressman. He was the congressman who wrote the 13th Amendment that outlawed slavery. But we also have Morrison Waite High School, Supreme Court Justice. I suppose it would have been better had I known exactly where we were going as opposed to just trying to do it on instinct.
No worries. I just got to be home by 6 for dinner with my wife on our anniversary. Yeah. Am I turning here or going straight?
Let's go straight. Do you know where we went for our anniversary once, and this is not an exaggeration?
Sonic?
International House of Pancakes. IHOP.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's
Take
turn
right.
right here. I guess.
Breakfast for dinner.
Easy, Paul.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a little hungry.
First Moscow. All right, here we
I'm hungry
are.
like a hostage.
We're gonna go through the drive-thru.
Is it
Yeah,
bad?
where is it?
Does it speak?
Is it
Keep
only?
going. Yep.
I'm thinking the same thing you're thinking, Your
What's
Worship.
that?
That it's lunch hour and it's not busy.
Well, here's the thing.
Well, it's 20 minutes to lunchtime.
We'll try one sandwich right now. If it's any good, I'll come back.
Just one? Are you kidding me?
Just for right now, yeah.
Does it
If
speak
they got them, I'm
poorly-
getting 5 of them. One for
right.
all of us.
See if we can do it.
Hold
Would you
on.
like a beverage, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, can we get you a complimentary beverage?
As you know, the Diet Coke is my go-to drink.
Thank you for stopping at Popeyes. Like our 17 starts at $5.99.
No, I want to try that new chicken sandwich that
I
everybody.
wish I could let you, but unfortunately we're not serving it
Oh,
for quite some time. We shall be back real soon, though.
oh,
I'm so sorry.
oh! And do you know who I have in this car?
I don't, but I would love to know.
I'm gonna pull up so you can see who it is.
All right.
To see whose heart you've broken. Does it speak poorly of me and my health that I orient myself based on what? Like, wait a second, there used to be a White Castle here.
Nah, it's all right. There's nothing wrong
And
with
before that, it was an Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips. Boy, I tell you. Plants.
All right, here we
I
go.
don't know
Let's
if
see
this
what kind
guy's
of
gonna
pull
be-
you got.
What's with this drive-through?
It
I have no
very
pull.
pleasant.
They're not. They have no idea.
Oh,
who
my.
I am.
You know who I got here? That's
Nobody-
the mayor of the city of Toledo, Wade Kapszukiewicz.
I'm uglier in person. It throws people off.
And he's hungry, and he wanted to try the new sandwich. To who?
The mayor.
To the mayor? That Popeyes?
So awesome.
When are you gonna have him back? Any idea?
I keep ordering it, but they won't send it to me. Once everybody gets it, I guess.
Can we try to get a Diet Coke for the mayor?
Can we get a Diet Coke?
He's checking back though. It should be real soon.
Okay.
All right. By the way, your taxes are gonna start going
Yeah,
up.
that's
Jacking up them taxes till he gets that chicken sandwich.
I know.
Okay, so how early is too early to fire up your mower and mow your lawn? Especially on the weekend. Saturday morning.
Yeah.
How early?
I would say about the earliest you'd want to do that and still be a good neighbor would be, 10.
10.
10 is, most folks are awake by then, but there's kind of a decorum. I would turn right here if you could. There's kind of a decorum that governs that. I would say 10.
Yeah, well, my neighbors need a chat.
When's your birthday?
October 30th.
What's on your birthday list?
What would be on my birthday list this year?
A Popeye's chicken sandwich.
Popeye's chicken sandwich.
Diet Coke.
On my birthday list in perpetuity for the entire rest of my life would be living long enough to see the Cleveland Indians win just one World Series. Just one. That's all I want. Well, we're back. We're at the end of our journey, I think.
We are. Let me park.
Okay.
Slap the flashers on because
Do you remember the name of the architect who built this?
No, but I remember he also designed the World Trade Center.
That's correct.
The American name Yakasara or something.
Yes.
Minoru Yamakasi? No, I forgot his last name. I know his first name is Minoru. Yamasaki, I think is what it was.
Mr. Mayor, thank
you.
you for
Oh.
being the inaugural
Drop my phone.
voyage
There you
of
go.
Driving with Denny, and We appreciate it. It was very fun, and hopefully you enjoyed it.
I did enjoy it. I can't imagine your viewers will enjoy it, but I did the best I could. To quote Popeye, I am what I am. And I'm just not that interesting or funny, but I am what I am. So I did my best.
Denny, Susie, and Paul are live and local.
Great show.
It's entertaining. On 93.5 WRQN.